Welcome to the final segment of the It's My Cloud Now trilogy. In this nugget, we are going to pick up right where the last one left off, meaning actually midstream thought. Last one we left off thinking about, okay, now that we've got everything in place, it's time to design the security group. So let's go from there. So let's talk design first of all. Now, there's going to be some security that's pretty obvious when you look at this, and then there's going to be some that's not so obvious. So let's break it down bit by bit. Let's talk about the obvious stuff. We need to filter what's coming into the web servers, right? These are web servers, so I would say port 80 and 443 are allowed in there. That's HTTP and HTTPS. We've got the database servers. We'll just say these are running MySQL, providing the account data for our ephemeral life online game. Now, MySQL uses port, let's draw a line here, uses port 3306 by default, unless you've changed that. So I'm going to filter it so only the web servers can communicate down to these guys using port 3306. Okay, good. So let's also think about management. Now let's just say everything is running Linux here. We're a Linux shop. We're not running a Windows environment. Windows it's just as easy, but different ports. So I would say, okay, to be able to reach, let me just put a little dash down here. To be able to reach these web servers for management, we've got I'll put management port 22, which is SSH. Now again, if you were running the Windows world, it would be port 3389 for remote desktop. And I would also highly suggest filtering that down so only the people that belong on that port will get there. There are bots running all around the world all the time, thousands and thousands and thousands of them every single second, that are scanning the IP addresses looking for people who have these port opens. And as soon as they find somebody with those ports open, they will just start doing a brute force attack to where they'll just try this password, try that password, try this password, try that password, and just for days and days, years and years, weeks and weeks, in no specific time order, they're eventually going to get through. I mean, they're going to run out of passwords, abandon you, or break your security. So it is always good to secure those so only the people who belong managing the device get there. Now, we've got a problem. We have these guys, we'll say, also running Linux that are behind this NAT firewall, which says they are not accessible from the internet. Now the big question, how do you manage them? How do you SSH into these guys since we don't have an elastic IP address? They're private only. They truly are a private only address. No public is being passed through. This guy is performing PAT, so he's not allowing anything through. He's just allowing outbound traffic to pass through. How do you manage them? Well, there's no easy answer to that question. There's really two ways you could go about it. One is get into the configuration of this NAT device and do some tweaking. Meaning I get in there and I set up some static NAT entries that says if something arrives on its elastic IP on a certain port number, I'll pass it through to one, or you can alternate your port numbers. It gets kind of ugly if you do it that way. But that's customizing the NAT device. The other, and what Amazon would suggest and support to you, is setting up yet another zone they call it the Bastion security group. I would call it the management security group. And what it has in it is just one instance. Yep, that's monthly charges, so you're looking hourly charges. It could be a micro instance. That's totally fine to run a micro instance if you can do it with a VPC, and you can't. So you would use a small instance to do your management. So you've got a small instance running right here, and all it's there for, maybe you would map this guy to the outside with an elastic IP address, and all it's there for is as a link to manage these guys. So my management would look like this. I would SSH into this Bastion host, this management host, and this guy would have the authority and be filtered to where he has the ability to SSH into these guys. Now you could make it more of a blanket statement. You could even deny all outside management to your web servers and say all my management comes from the Bastion host. That's a well-known security design, is to have a specific management station that pretty much has the keys to the kingdom, and all your security resides on that guy. So you lock him down really tight. You have really good passwords, but once you're in, now you're kind of on the center of the network, and you're able to manage whatever devices you have. So that's now another security group, another setup that we would have to think about designing in for our management purposes. Last security group. Again, the ones that aren't obvious is that guy. He's a NAT device. He doesn't need or really get full access to this side or this guy. He's just there to do NAT. So I need to kind of design my own little zone for him, allowing him to accept web traffic and pass web traffic out to the rest of the world. So let's configure it, and you'll see how these permissions are going to play out as we go. So shooting over to the VPC management console, I'm going to drop down to the security groups. I've got my default ones. Now, when you're doing this is why the design is so essential. Is the best practice is to just create all the security groups from the beginning, and that will allow you to set all the permissions without running into roadblocks. You'll see what I mean. So let's create all our security groups. So I'm going to click on Create Security Group. We'll say SG-web servers. This will be for the web servers. Have to have a description. VPC, this will be 9C5. That's why documentations are key. I'm just looking up here to see it. So we've got SG web servers. Okay, so one for the web servers. Let's create SG-database. Servers. Got to tell you, I have the most amazing keyboard in front of me. CBT Nuggets actually got this for me. It's a Logitech solar keyboard. It's really, really thin. It has solar panels on it, on the keyboard, seriously, and it's really, so you never have batteries. It's wireless, of course. But anyway, I'm just excited to use it, but I haven't quite mastered the typing on it yet. So I'm going to click on SG. So we've got database, web servers. What else we got? We've got management. All right, we'll throw that guy in the 9C5 group. I always just look at the last three characters. So we got data. Oh, the NAT. We need NAT here. Let's sort this guy out. So I'm going to click on Create Security Group, and we'll do SG-NAT. All right, create. Anything else? We got database, we got management, we've got the NAT device, the NAT instance, and we've got the web servers. Nope, that should be it. Also, one thing worth mentioning, and you'll see why in a moment. By default, the group ID is hidden. Like if I hit this showed hide, this is what it looks like by default. You'll want to see that. When you're getting into these permissions, you will want to see that group ID. So always make sure that you show that so that it's visible to you. So let's start off with the web servers. We've got the web servers that are going to be surfing the web. So by default, we've got no inbound permissions. That's the default on every security group. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to allow port 80 on the I don't know why it's popping that guy up. Huh, that was weird. So we'll say port 80 on the inbound. So again, visually, let's look at this. People all around the world are going to be accessing our ephemeral life web services. So everywhere are we going to be coming in on port 80 and also port 443 for HTTPS if we have secure logon page or whatever we have for our website. So I'll also go in and allow port 443. Add rule. HTTPS shows up. Now, keep in mind, we're kind of doing this kind of on a whim. There's not a, if I were doing this in production, I would have a complete spreadsheet showing all of the permissions that are there because it's so easy to forget. For example, looking at this, I might think, oh, well, okay, that's good. 80 and 443, that's our web servers because web, that equals those two. But what if I wanted to manage these guys? And right now, they're unmanageable. They are blocked from any kind of SSH traffic. So we'd have to add that in, but we'll come back to that in a second. So I'll hit apply rule changes, get that in effect. Let's now hit the outbound. Now, this is the beauty of VPC. Normally, all outbound access is allowed in the EC2 world, and you can't restrict it. And in this case, we want to. This is saying, okay, by default, all outbound access is allowed, and we don't get that. Because from our web server's perspective, and I always, when I'm trying to figure the inbound, outbound, it gets confusing sometimes. So I just think, okay, I am a web server in the EC2 cloud. I am going to be going out. So what does that mean? That means I'm, surfing the web. I'm doing whatever. So I'm thinking, okay, well, on the outbound, I want to allow web surfing anywhere. They should be able to do that. And, 443 included in that. Okay, what else am I needing to do? Okay, well, as a web server, I need to access my database servers. That's where I get my login and credential verification for my ephemeral life users and, access their account statistics and, everything that's sitting in that database server. So I need database access, and this is where it gets kind of fun. I go, okay, well, that's going to be MySQL port 3306, but not to anywhere. Now, I don't need to access databases all around the world. I only need to access them in the specific security group, SG-. And I don't know why. A lot of times, once it's been running for a while, they'll auto-populate here in this list. But I'm going to manually type it in. If it doesn't auto-populate, that's fine. 70D11DB. That's why it's so key to see these group IDs, is I'm saying I'm using port 3306 to that security group. That's my database servers that are in there. Are you getting that? Okay, good. So let's apply this rule changes. Let's see. Is there anything else? So we've got web, HTTPS, MySQL. Now you might think, well, what about management? Do we need to allow SSH outbound? I would say no. Probably, unless you have a very specific reason why, no. Because think about it this way: if you allow SSH out, that means your servers can SSH to wherever you specify, which means they can be leveraged as a jump-off point if an attacker compromises it. Let's say that in a vulnerability in Apache is found. Somebody, finds a way to get admin access to your server through port 80, through the web services by sending a specialized string, crashing the server, and man, now you've got a console display in a web browser. So once they have that, if you are allowing port 22 out, that now allows this guy to be used as a jump-off point to attack servers on the internet or to wherever you're allowing SSH access outbound to. It's not what I want to do. So we'll say no. That's it on the outbound. Now on the inbound, I will want to say I need some management access. So there's a few ways to do this. One is the cross your fingers way. Management from anywhere. Scary. That's what I just mentioned a moment ago. That where somebody could sit here all day long trying to SSH into your device. We don't want to do that. So one better than that is to say I want to allow SSH from my block of IP address at my company. Maybe my company is 140.5.10 or 109.0. We're just making this up as we go. /24, right? So maybe that is our corporate office. So adding this will allow only management from our corporate office or our home or whatever IP addresses you allow in there. So that's one better. That's a huge step better than all access. But let's go even one better than that. I'm going to say the only way that you can manage this web services group is if you are a part of the security group B10D. I know some of you are going, I see where you're going. The management server. So I'm going to click on add in there. So now it's saying I don't accept SSH from the outside at all. The only way I'm going to accept SSH is if you, we erased it, is if you first SSH into this, which can be restricted to a certain block IP addresses. Then you have to be knowledgeable enough to SSH from that management workstation over to our different devices. So let's just put management on there. See that? Isn't that pretty cool? So now I'm only allowing SSH into there. Okay, good. I'm going to apply those changes. Now you kind of get the idea, right? Let's move a little faster. I'm going to shoot over to the database group next. Database, again, inbound, nothing is being allowed. So I'm going to say I want to allow port 3306, that's MySQL, but not from everywhere. Only from SGB60D11DA. That's our web server. So our web servers will have the authority to come in and communicate on MySQL. I'll also allow, let's do management as well, port 22 from SGB10D11DD. That's our management server. Let's see what else. I think that's it. I mean, they're database servers. That's it. We need to manage them, and we need to allow inbound database traffic so we can retrieve database info from these servers. Okay, good. So I would say golden on the inbound. Let's look outbound. Outbound, we're allowing everything, and I'm going to say no. Only thing I want to allow is maybe port 80 for web surfing, and maybe port 443. I mean, it's Linux. We always are downloading new patches, new repositories, new all kinds of new software. So I'm just allowing web on the outbound, and that should be it. Now you might be saying, well, okay, do we need to restrict that? Well, no, because the internet is a very big place. We can't say, okay, they can go to that. I mean, I guess you could if you just want to allow web access. I mean, that's ultra security there. I just want to allow web access to the repository to download that specific file. You can do that. But remember, our routing table that's set for these guys are going to force them to go through our NAT gateway. So that should be good. So I'll click on apply. We've allowed the web. Okay, and so now let's see what else we got. We've got let's look at the NAT. So we're going to assign our NAT instance to this security group. So on the NAT instance, I'm going to say I want to allow, let's go inbound first. I want to allow port 80 and 443 from, and we could, I mean, there's a couple ways we could do it. We could say from the security group. I mean, we could say from anywhere. I would say that's well, no. Actually, no, I wouldn't do that because this NAT device is exposed to the internet. So saying from anywhere would allow people, to pull up web pages if they were running on that NAT device. So no. We don't want to allow web surfing from anywhere. I would just say from the security group of the database servers, because those are the ones being NATed. Or, we can, instead of calling it database, we could call it the private zone. But you know what? What if down the road I add, I've got database now, but I add another group of servers, maybe, I don't know, DNS servers, or maybe whatever. I mean, it's ephemeral life. It's a big online game. We could have all kinds of supporting servers for this. So maybe I want to, instead of saying just database, I want to say I want to allow port 80 from 10.5.2.0/24, which is this subnet. So anything that's in that private zone will be able to go through on port 80. Add rule. Same thing here, 443 for 10.5.2.0/24. Add rule there. Is this making sense to where we're now able to say this is being allowed in, so these guys can, they're going to be sending stuff through this NAT device. So in on port 8443, see how it's so easy to miss? Oh, and management. I mean, what if we want to manage this device? So let's say port 22 from SGB10D11DD. See, I would say this is probably the biggest part of setting this up. I mean, this has taken the most time. It's taken the most thought. Now, right now, I'm just doing this off of the top of my head. I'm thinking, oh yeah, what about? But I mean, think about this when you really have some meaty stuff running. I mean, you're going to have more than port 80 and 443, chances are. You're going to have more than just a couple database ports. I mean, you really have to sit at a whiteboard and draw this out, and the different groups and the different IP addresses and all of this, where all the different things at. Okay, so we've got inbound. How about the outbound restriction? So I'll click on outbound. Right now, it's allowed to access everything, and this is death. We don't want to keep these default permissions because it undermines all of our security groups. So if we left it at full access to everything, then the NAT device could fully, if somehow somebody compromised our NAT device, could happen. It's now fully able to access the web servers, the database. It's now kind of a key jump off point for the hacker to hack everything. So instead, I'm going to say I'm only allowing port 80 and 443 to everything. Now again, this guy needs everything for those ports because he's surfing the net. He's the proxy that is passing all of these guys through, so he's taking responsibility, natting them, and going out to the internet. So we do have to allow everything on that. So we'll click on apply. Okay. Let's see. Last piece. Let's see. What is the last? Okay. Last piece is going to be our management. Right now we've got our management group, which we don't have a server for yet, but it is allowed to access everything, which I'm going to remove that right away, and has no inbound permissions. So first thing I would say is let's add port 22 from our corporate network. So so we'll do what did I say, 150.1.1.0. Just make that up. So we'll click on Add Rule. So this will allow us to SSH into that box from corporate network A, where I know my block of IP addresses. I SSH into here, and then from there I can SSH and manage all of my different devices. And I mean, let your mind wander with this. You can be as secure as you want. You can say, well, one host can manage these guys, and maybe there's another host which has more security that can manage these. So whatever. It's all that trade-off between usability and security complexity. So we'll have SSH that is allowed inbound from our corporate network. Then we'll have to go on the outbound side and say, okay, this guy can use SSH outbound to manage 10.5. I mean, we could say everything. We could do 0.0/16. That would be fine, but just for grins, let's be more specific. I'll say 1.0/24, just in case down the road we want to tweak it. And we'll say SSH to 10.5.2.0/24. So this guy now can manage those two different subnets. And I could have put the group ID if I wanted to put specific security groups of servers that it's able to manage. Again, it's up to you, but this is one way to go about it. So we'll apply both of those. Good. Wow. It's like I want to step back and just soak it all in for a moment. So we've got the database servers permissions applied, inbound and outbound. Management, we've got the NAT device, the web servers. So what's left? Well, we got to put the servers in there, right? So we would have to come over here to EC2 and say, now we don't have these servers, but we would generate all the servers. We'd have our database servers and our web servers and everything else that's running. And now we can right-click on those guys and say, I want to change the security group. And now we have the ability to say, okay, this guy, this is our NAT instance. He goes into the NAT security group. Yes, change. Oh. that's not good. Does not exist. Please. Okay, I'm back. I fixed it. So I just always have these two tabs open. I just kind of bounce back and forth between the two. And all I had to do was, essentially close this guy out and go in through the VPC and say, okay, go into the running instances. It just had to refresh itself so that it knew that it existed. So right-click on this guy, change security group, and throw them in the NAT security group. Yes, change, and voila. While it's running, you can just throw them into whatever security group you need them in. Shows now he is assigned to that. You can view the rules, and show all of the different. Please hold. Okay, I'm back again. I think I'm just working a little too fast. I just went back to the security group, view the rules, hit refresh, and then came back over here and voila. Now they're showing up. Okay, I'm done doing things spontaneously because again, this looks like it just takes a little time for everything to permeate in the system. But that is the process. If you can see my scribbles, that is the process of assigning the security groups, and then of course we can add it as step 8. What we just did. 8 place place machines in security groups. Put those instances, assign them to the security group so all the permissions take effect. So there it is, VPC in all its glory. Now we could say, oh well, what about the VPNs? Well, VPNs are kind of a separate thing. They integrate with VPC, but they are a separate entity in themselves. But aren't you glad we did this manually? I mean, I always love the silence that I get, because my mind goes to where half of your minds probably go. Some people are like, oh yeah, that was cool. Some of you are like, I will never do that again. Why would I leave my wizard? Why would I do that? So by going through it manually, we were able to see the real meat behind it. We saw creating the CIDR block. We saw adding the subnets. The internet gateway was in there, allowing our devices to reach the internet. And then we had to come back and pull back and say, well, not all the devices, just these devices. They get the elastic IPs. These devices are sitting behind a NAT instance that we manually generated using the community AMI that Amazon has made available for us, and then adjusting the routing table. And now finally, the security groups, all of the design and implementation of the permissions in our VPC cloud. It's amazing the amount that we've gone through in these last two nuggets. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.